Hello, film freaks, and welcome to another edition of the KFS Film Session, coming to you a day after the New York Knicks beat the Toronto Raptors 112-98, snapping their three-game losing streak. As we'll talk about, it was a game that I think was mostly positive. It wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but a nice little get-right game for the New York Knicks. But before we do that, we do have an announcement to make and want to make sure everyone knows about the new Patreon tier that we just launched the other day. It is the Brunson tier. So for at $11 a month, you are going to get an extra film session per week by yours truly. You're going to be getting an extra mailbag session. So X's and O's questions that you guys may have, you can send them my way. We'll do a podcast, break all those questions down, answer any and all of them. And Benji Ritholtz will be partnering with me on this Brunson tier, which is going to be very film focused. We'll be doing his daily grades after every game, fully breaking down each one of those grades. So more than what you typically would get on his Twitter feed, which would just have the grade. This time he's going to be in depth on each one of those grades to really explain why he gave each player what he gave them. And he's also going to be doing long form articles. And he's already got one on the Patreon site regarding the town spacing impact on the Knicks cutting, which was very well done. And then in addition, we're going to be doing weekly pods with Macri, and we'll be participating in the town hall. So hopefully you guys give that a try and see if you like it. I know most people who do sign up tend to stick with the product. So I think the KFS Patreon is already a well-run machine, and Benji and I are just going to be trying to enhance it a little bit and add our unique brand of content to the Patreon subscription service. So hopefully you guys check that out. But today we have to break down a basketball game that the Knicks won, again, 112-98 against Toronto Raptors. So without further ado, let's get right into it. And we're starting early in the game. Knicks are going to run a little sideline out of bounds play. And speaking of cutting, we're actually going to see how the Knicks cutting can generate some good looks for them. So right off this, they're going to be running, and they do this a lot, where they're going to run what you call a zipper screen. And that's basically a way for Towns to catch this ball. So Brunson's setting the screen here. Going to give Towns a little opening to catch cleanly. He's going to dribble out to about here, and then the Knicks are going to run a classic zoom or Chicago action for Anunoby. So he's going to get a pin down into the DHO, and hopefully OG can turn the corner and get downhill. This play, the initial action, isn't really run with the crispness you would like. As we see here, Anunoby really doesn't get much of an advantage here. So Towns catches. Here's a pin down by Hart. And you can see it's a little clunky, not a lot of space. Emmanuel Quickly, who was really famous as a Knick for playing in the gaps and really providing a lot of help, is walling off here. So there's really no driving angle for Anunoby. But watch, this is what I like what the Knicks do. So they're kind of resetting the action here. And what you'll get is an exchange between Brunson and Bridges. Now, why are you putting Bridges in the wing and Brunson in the corner? Despite the fact that Brunson is the more credible shooter from the wing, what we like here is that Bridges is going to utilize one of his best skills, which is his 45 cutting ability. And there he goes. So now he's off. He's in a 45 cut here off this hard drive. So as Hart drives the ball, there's Bridges in the middle of the lane. And what Benji talked about in the article you can find on the Patreon page is that when you have Towns spaced here, there's just no one defending the basket, and Bridges is going to get a layup out of it. So the initial action really didn't generate much, but it's that exchange on the weak side and the Bridges 45 cut to the basket that was able to get the Knicks a layup. Moving through here, this is I don't know if the Knicks have run this particular play before. It's the first time I've logged it, so might be the first time I've seen it, but it's a double drag, but a shallow action. And this is a classic Warrior set that they would run for Klay Thompson. typically to get a three. So he would be in the Bridges spot. And it's a little different than how the Knicks run it, because when Clay would run it, he would sprint out to this area right here. Curry would be the ball handler, would hit him quick for an open three. And then you would get, whether it's Looney or Draymond, either setting a flare screen in this spot as the first screener, or they would just roll to the basket. And in the process of rolling, sort of pick off the defender guarding Klay Thompson, and that would generate the open three. Knicks do it a little different here, but I think the result was pretty solid and something I think they should go to again. So when we talk about a shallow cut, all that is just this action right here as Bridges cuts shallow underneath the initial first screener. So as Bridges shallow cuts through, instead of rolling, Cat is going to pop this to the three-point line, and that's going to put a lot of pressure on Grady Dick. So he's here. He's basically zoning up Bridges and Towns. And of course, with the gravity that Towns has as a shooter, and with Brunson generating two to the basketball, you can see how Mikal Bridges is now going to take advantage of the fact that you have Towns as an elite floor spacer and Brunson elite on the ball. You get the gravity off your co-stars and you generate some good things as the ancillary piece. So there's the cut by Bridges. Great pass by Brunson here behind Pirtle. Bridges doesn't have the initial look, but it's a kick out to a wide open Hart for a three, and he's able to make it. First three of the game for Hart and the Knicks, who had been struggling, didn't really shoot it that well in this particular game. Nice to see that first three by Hart go down. So again, double drag, shallow look. Now, this is what Brunson does as well as anyone in the league. Just excuse the double drag shallow here at the top. Got to relabel that one. But as Brunson hits that in and out dribble right there, putting your defender on their heels is going to allow him to get the penetration that he's seeking here. And it's that in and out dribble that really is going to put the defender in a really poor position. And then at this point, Brunson is just going to attack the outside hip and get through that hip. And that's where you're being a confrontational driver. So once Brunson is in this spot here and the defender's opened his hips up, you just go through that right hip, that outside hip, and you get all the way to the basket. And again, we talk about the spacing. Towns here, no rim protector here. And this is the disadvantage of when you're putting your traditional big on Towns. You're taking them out of the play, and Brunson with a nice 2-foot finish at the basket. This was one of the main, I think, areas that Brunson as a passer has gotten really good on, and his passing has gotten better this year. And it started last year with this particular pass, the pocket pass on the short roll to the basket. He's just become excellent at that. And now with Achua, who has decent hands, and Towns, and of course Hartenstein last year, he has bigs now that can roll to the basket and catch these low pocket passes with regularity, and that has really enhanced the passing ability of Brunson. So we're a little get action, which is Brunson flipping to Bridges, who flips it right back to Brunson. This is just designed to get Brunson in position to set this screen up. Now, Olynyk is not in a deep drop, but you would still call this drop coverage. And when you're playing drop coverage, you typically are taking away that pocket pass and getting behind the defense. Pocket passes, again, are much more of a weapon against hedging or blitzing, when you have to hit the screen and get out and try to create an advantage. When you're in a drop, you're basically trying to take that action away, that pocket pass. But I think it's the suddenness and the velocity on this pass that Brunson makes to Achua that really puts Olynyk in a tough position and surprises him, I think, with the quickness of it. So as Brunson comes off the screen, boom, high velocity on target, and Achua with a nice finish, gets behind the defense. And again, if you're in drop, it's really bad defense by Olynyk. You just can't let a rolling big get behind you when you're in drop coverage. Now, the defense by the Raptors, again, with whether it's Hart or Anunoby, they're going to load up on Brunson. So this is a pass that Randall made a lot as a Knick, and Brunson, I think, started doing it more commonly last year and is doing it again this year. So when he has this defender here that is trying to load up against the Brunson drive, because of his positioning and because Brunson is still, by his body language, he is looking and operating as if he's going to take the screen over here to this side, or he would reject it and get downhill. And that's probably what Barnes is most concerned about. Brunson rejects screens as much as any guard in the NBA. So Barnes, by his positioning, is taking away that driving gap. But this is leaving a really good three-point shooter open in the corner. And watch how Brunson is able to manipulate with his eyes, not even looking at Anunoby, and it's just a quick pass, decent contest, but it's still a decent look from three. Nice little pass by Brunson. And again, this is we're talking about how the defense is going to try to take away what the Knicks are trying to get to. Towns has Bruce Brown on him, and you could see how Hart, when he cuts through, you don't get a big reaction off that from Scotty Barnes, who again is in his main job is to try to take away the rim attempt by Towns. So as Barnes sits down in this spot right here, you can look at this and say they've pretty much walled off the rim. And that's going to put the onus on Towns to make a play in the short mid-range. And this is the area where, if you're talking about projecting the Knicks out against really good teams, when they're going really well, they have two guys, Brunson and Towns, that are high-level shot creators, not only at the rim, not only from three, but they could do it in the intermediate short mid-range area. And this is what Towns is able to do here. Again, we're getting a lot of help here. We're getting Jacoby Walter, and he's in the gap. And then again, you get they're walled off from getting all the way to the basket. So Towns has to go to a secondary option, which is the short mid-range. I love this release here. Now, Towns has a low release point. It's one of the lower release points in the NBA based on his height at 7 feet. It's a relatively low release point. So with this, by releasing the ball with one hand, he's able to extend that release a little bit higher. This is something actually Patrick Ewing would do plenty. Now, Ewing, of course, had a very high release point naturally, but he would go even higher when he would take his left hand off the ball. Kevin Garnett, another one that was classic at releasing with just a single right hand, and it just adds a couple inches to that release point. And Towns is able to do that, and a nice little finish. Not quite a jump shot, not quite a floater, sort of in between, but able to extend a little bit more than his typical. Now, of course, when you're playing, the Knicks have now become accustomed to centers guarding Josh Hart. Now, I don't understand why Pirtle is outside the three-point line with Hart 35 feet away. He is. Now, the Knicks take advantage, and then we get this is called a boomerang pass. So I'm going to pull it back one more time. And okay, so that initial pass to Hart, and when it goes right back to him, that's called the boomerang pass. So pass to Towns, and that ball's going right back to Hart. And the advantage there is that you're basically creating a closeout. So instead of having to create with the ball with a live dribble, if you're Josh Hart, you're getting this pass back, and you can just attack off a closeout, and that puts more pressure on the defender. And then on top of that, what we get is Hart running through the catch or a stampede dribble. So as Hart catches this ball, you're going to see him have his momentum already getting downhill. Now, Towns doesn't make a great pass in a perfect world. That pass is about here. So Hart can run through it and just continue his momentum down. The pass is a little behind Hart, but it doesn't disrupt his momentum too much. And he's able to get all the way to the rim. So let's go rewind that and play that back. You can see the full sequence. So the boomerang pass, there's a Stampede running through the catch. Hart gets a paint touch and uses the rim to fend off Pirtle. Great finish by Hart, who played an excellent ball game against the Raptors. So back to same with the offense, baseline out of bounds. So this was a nice action that we have not seen often by the Knicks for Anunoby. It's a stagger for an open three. So you get that initial screen by Brunson. Of course, the Raptors not going to want to switch that with Brunson's gravity. So they're going to have Barrett fight through this. He gets through the first screen fine, but it's the second one with Towns setting it that is going to pick him off and get Anunoby an open three from the right corner. Boom. Nice little action by the Knicks. Anunoby with a little movement shooting in the right corner. Nice to see him have a nice game shooting the ball. Been a little inconsistent over the past several games. But what he has done really well all season, and what Josh Hart has done really well all season, is find him in transition as a post player, trying to get steals against smaller, weaker defenders. So Josh Hart sees right away that Anunoby has the advantage here. So as he's streaking on the left side of the floor, Barrett had taken the shot on this on the previous possession, and Anunoby just takes off. And you're going to see, I think he's already doing it. Barrett is calling out to Grady Dick, like, you have to take Anunoby here. And you saw that in the first matchup on December 9th, that whenever Anunoby, or I don't know if it was the first matchup, or there was the game this year where Anunoby went off for 30 points or whatever he scored, he did a lot of his damage in the paint on post-ups, and a lot of it came against Grady Dick. So as we play this through, you're actually going to see Hart right there point. Now he is really aware. So he's pointing right there to Brunson that Anunoby's got an advantage. So this is a really good read by Hart to see this. So as Brunson brings the ball up the court, doesn't really have the angle. So a quick pitch to Hart, and then Anunoby just repositions onto the right block, and Hart leads him right to the basket. The strength of Anunoby is so impressive, and Grady Dick, the one thing he is going to need to figure out is how to add strength, because it's really a problem for him on the defensive end. It's just an easy fend off by Anunoby with the right hand. Good pass by Hart. You're going to get the extension, the wingspan coming into play here on the catch. And then Anunoby off 2 feet, one of the best dunkers from the wing spot in the NBA, and a nice finish. So we know that there's spacing concerns with Hart, and Barnes really was the one that tried to really muck things up. So he's standing in heavy gap help. Typically, you're going to be right around here at the nail. I mean, you just see him. At the elbow. He is right at the nail of the defense here, just taking away the drive by Brunson. This is something the Knicks, of course, have to contend with when Josh Hart is in the game. Hart is going to cut through, and as he cuts through, that's going to momentarily sort of freeze Barrett. And as we know, RJ can be a little susceptible on off-ball actions. As an off-ball player in general, just not highly aware and quick or decisive. So as Hart cuts through, it's just putting Barrett in the position where he just has to notice it, and he's going to react to it at this cut by Hart, and it's going to open up the Anunoby shot in the left corner. Again, Brunson, quick decision, right in the shooting pocket. Now Barrett gets out there, and it looks like a good contest. But again, I always talk about, as a shooter, how's your visual? Even with the hand up, it just seems like that is a comfortable release point by Anunoby and able to drill that left corner three. Knicks ran a few double drag actions for Brunson in this game. Anunoby is going to be a little late getting out to it and doesn't really get much of a of his screen here, but because Pirtle, you're going to see him hedge this pretty aggressively. And this is one of the things that Brunson does exceedingly well, is that he's going to try to get to the outside foot of that hedging defender and get some penetration. So here's the first screen in the double drag, and then Anunoby. Now Pirtle's already out, so Anunoby is not in position to actually set the screen here. But the objective by Brunson at this point is to beat Pirtle getting downhill. And if he can get to that outside foot, the right foot of Pirtle, he's going to win the battle. And that's going to put IQ in a tough spot, because he's going under and try to cut off the drive by Brunson. But it's going to allow Brunson to get a lot of momentum downhill, and it's just a lot to ask Immanuel Quickley to stop that particular drive. So as Brunson takes that drive left, there he turns the corner, and now he's beaten Pirtle. He's beaten him. It's over for Pirtle. He gets past him. And now IQ is in the position now he's got to try his best to get to here and hold off the drive. But the strength advantage that Brunson has over him, and IQ is really never able to get his chest in front of the drive. He's on Brunson's hip, and it's a pretty easy finish by Brunson. So he's able to beat the hedge and get all the way to the basket. And this was just, I had to put this one on there because there's how many players in the NBA can put together a sequence like this. I don't know, maybe is there 5 in the NBA? So first off, the no dip threes by Mikal Bridges, I have to do a little bit more of a deep dive. This is not a no dip three. It's a shallow. So the ball, it's subtle, but the ball does come down a couple of inches. So there is a dip here on the three. But when you're shallow dipping or no dipping, it's typically designed to quicken the release point on opportunities where you have to get the shot off a little quicker. But he is wide open here. Still, it's a really shallow dip into the shot. I'd have to really break down, and maybe there's something for the Patreon subscribers to break down these threes when he does this no dip action. Like, what is the percentage? What is the shooting percentage based on that versus when he's got a more traditional dip into the release? So TBD on that one, but it's a missed shot. And the Raptors getting out transition. RJ, one of the best transition players in the NBA. And just look at Anunoby getting that left hand on the ball and just snatches it. That is as good as it gets in transition, backpedaling, and still have the instincts and the hands to be able to get in there and the strength to just rip it away from a very, very strong individual. And the Knicks now with the numbers going back the other way. Paint touch by Bridges. And then Hart, he and Anunoby, they do have a nice synergy, especially Hart as the passer. So as Bridges gets into the paint, he's going to dump it off the Hart. Now Hart just knows where Anunoby is. He's already looking that way. And just a quick swing. Barrett has not even gotten back into the picture yet. Open three, knocks it down. Excellent work by the Knicks. And just a phenomenal play by Anunoby on both sides of the ball. Now, Josh Hart can also take away some gap help as well. So he is guarding. Let's rewind that a little bit. He is guarding Scotty Barnes, and Scotty Barnes shooting under 30% from three on the season. So Hart is going to be in his early gap help and try to take away and muck things up a little bit on this baseline out of bounds. So as RJ takes this pitch, he's getting into the teeth of the defense. And again, not a lot of room to go. So if you're RJ Barrett, you're just smothered here with Hart right at the nail. Anunoby tracking well. Really good defense by Hart to get in there and disrupt things. Not worried about Barnes as a shooter. And then right there, you can see the hand of Anunoby, the ridiculous ability to get his hands on the ball to knock this away. It started with the Hart gap defense, heavy gap help. Anunoby knocks it away, and now we're in transition. Hart finds Bridges for the open three. Hart, probably the best on the Knicks at generating open threes in transition. Bridges, as he was most of these attempts, short on the three from the corner. Anunoby able to tip it, and Hart snatches the offensive rebound, and then you get a quick swing. And at this point, is there 2-3 better shooters in the NBA, or more shooters you're more confident we're going to make a shot with this amount of space from this particular spot on the court, top of the key, than Karl-Anthony Towns? There's probably only one or two, and there he is. As the shot was going up, you just knew it was going in. No one around him. Based on the Josh Hart offensive rebound, quick swing to Brunson, and then a swing to Cat for the open three. This was another baseline out of bounds, and I just thought this was an interesting, deceptive action by the Knicks. It's going to result in Shamet coming off and just simple cut to the rim for a reverse layup. But I would just want you to keep an eye on two players. One, Brunson here is actually going to hold Anunoby in place. So as the Raptors, you have one, when you have Achua, you have Shamet and Anunoby, you were just highly aware of Brunson's positioning here. But as we played this through, you can actually see Brunson holding Anunoby in place. Now, I don't know if that's intentional or part of the design or just something he read, but he wants Anunoby to stay solid for Shamet to make that initial cut towards the rim. And Bridges is on the same page, because if you watch his eyes, he's clearly looking in the direction of where Brunson was positioned, but he has one thing in mind, which is to hit Shamet coming around the corner. And he's able to do that. And Shamet with a nice finish on the other side of the rim. Nice little deceptive action on the baseline out of bounds by the New York Knicks. And we'll finish this session off with some Josh Hart self-creation and ball handling. And he seemed to get really a little spicy with the ball in his hands in that fourth quarter. And this first one, you don't see Josh Hart rejecting screens with a crossover often, but this is exactly what he's going to do on this one here. Get into the paint. So rejection with a cross, gets into the paint, quick kick to Cameron Payne. Now you get the rotations and you get the Raptors in a bit of the blender here. So Olynyk's coming over to deter the floater by Payne, and that's going to allow Karl-Anthony Towns to stake out positioning under the basket, tips it to himself, and then nice little left-handed jump hook, offensive rebound finish. That offensive rebound, how does that happen? The chain reaction of Hart getting into the paint on that initial screen rejection, gets it to Payne. Payne does what he needed to do, get towards the rim, decent floater look. Olynyk has to come over to help, and then you get Towns cleaning things up with the offensive rebound. And then again, I just don't understand why you had Pirtle in the first quarter and then Towns Pirtle in the first quarter, now Olynyk here. Why are we playing Josh Hart in this spot here? I get that he is concerned about Towns with the ball here, but I just don't think with Scotty Barnes guarding Towns 34 feet away that he's got to provide that much help in the gap here, that deep beyond the three-point line. So it's a similar boomerang pass right back to Hart. And this one doesn't initially generate that quick drive, but it's his ability by Hart to do enough with the ball in his hands. And he's able to make that initial drive. And then this is just a lot of, that double cross, getting into the paint. And then what you like to see as a driver, you get your pad levels down. It's like in the NFL or in any sport, if you can win the gravity game, you get lower than your defender, you're going to have a better chance to get to where you want to go. And Hart, as he makes this drive, he is much lower than Olynyk. And that's going to allow him to get low enough to not allow Barnes to get in there and disrupt the dribble. And then he's able to get low enough as well to get all the way to the rim and finish on the right side. Excellent work by Josh Hart. who played a phenomenal game. It was like the quintessential Josh Hart game, kind of did everything. That's like his best. And there's been, some concern about Hart's play of late. I thought he played a phenomenal game against the Raptors. Hopefully he can continue that stretch against the Thunder, which is the next matchup for the Knicks on Friday night. I will be doing a breakdown of that one for the Patreon audience. That will probably be released Saturday, so a day after. So this one going on the YouTube channel for all to see. We're going to continue doing these on a weekly basis. So the public weekly shows that Benji and I do will not be going anywhere, but we will be doing additional film work for Patreon. So I think the link to the Patreon will be in the description. So give it a try, check it out. Hopefully, if you do, you'll be pleasantly, you'll be happy about the results and how we're doing over there. So I think we had the content and everything that we're providing is going to really give you, I think, for a reasonable amount of money, a lot of great content that you're probably not getting anywhere else. So I think between me, Benji, of course, John and Andrew on the Patreon side, a lot of cool things happening. And of course, on the YouTube channel, it's just wall-to-wall coverage with the pregame, postgame, vibe checks, a lot of things happening here. So just give us a subscribe, give us a like, share it. Become a YouTube subscriber. It really does a great service to us and helps get the word out. So that'll do it for this week. Next week, Benji will be back here at this time, breaking down next week's action. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's session. Hopefully the Knicks can take this Raptors win and have a little momentum going into a massive game, a revenge game against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.